We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. By the time you hear this, it's Wednesday. We're recording it Tuesday night, and we're very fortunate. It's been a while, but Denise, our history gal, or history mom, I should say, um, is with us. And I know a lot of people look forward to us. You make comparisons of what's going on now, what went on in history. You have some interesting insights. I think you and I went off on some Charlie Kirk stuff last time that kind of irritated some people because it sounded too conspiracy theorious. But but it starts to make some sense too. We don't need to talk about Charlie Kirk. I could give two fucks about Charlie Kirk. We got enough stuff going on right now. So how you been? What have you been doing? I assume the holidays were great.
Yeah, I mean, I've been great. I'm glad to be back on. I was extremely busy this year with my Etsy shop.
Oh wow, great.
Um, I was completely bombarded with ornaments. I think in the first 2.5 weeks of December, I put out almost 100 orders.
That's good.
So, it was crazy. I have to say it was nuts. I've never been that quite that busy, so trying to work 40 hours and do that was insane. It
Yeah, I
was
can
kind of like
relate to
all
that.
hands on deck.
Did you get some help from the family and stuff putting all that stuff together?
Oh yeah, my husband was helping, my kid was helping package toilet paper. I needed somebody. My son was helping me one night because I'm like, I think I'm going to confuse these orders, so he was helping me keep on track.
Well, you brought something up before we went on. I'm going to talk about it now, and we'll talk about it at the end of the show. You're very busy. You work 40 hours. You're a mom. You do Etsy. You do a lot of stuff. And apparently, it wasn't enough because it sounds like you're going to be doing a podcast now, which I think
I
people
am.
will be excited to hear about. Tell us about the podcast coming up.
So I am going to launch my podcast hopefully by the end of this week. I have it titled History Mom. I've already created like a Facebook page for it. I'm in the middle of creating an Instagram for it so I can get that up on social media. And basically, I'm going to be talking about history, but how it relates to today is my plan for the podcast, and there probably would be once a week. I can't do it every day because that takes way too much research. But my first podcast will be a history of Venezuela.
Wow. This is going to be an interesting podcast. I like history and I like how you compare what's going on now to what went on in the past. Do you have an idea how people are going to be able to find this? Is it going to be on YouTube? Is it going to be on Spotify? What are you going to be on?
So I am going to have it on Spotify, and I am in the process of making my YouTube channel as well. So I will have it on YouTube, and then, like I said, I will have clips on Instagram, obviously, and like Facebook.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, definitely give it a listen. And if you want to give me some more info toward the end of the week, I'll be sure to mention it on the podcast because I know there will be a lot of people that listen to this show that will want to hear that. So we'll make sure that people get over there. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I didn't know you were going to be on at this point, and people were trying to compare what the election in 2026 is going to be compared to what happened in 2024. My contention is you can't do that because we're totally different worlds now than we were in 2024. And I suggested that it's hard to look at history based on what's going on now because what's going on now I can't imagine ever happened in history with all these things happening. Now, I realize, because my wife points it out frequently, I could be wrong, and you would be the person to answer that. Have we been in situations like this before? Is history repeating itself in any way?
I mean, history is obviously repeating itself. Them going into Venezuela is a lot like us going into Iraq and being there for 20 years. Vietnam was another one.
Noriega?
Election, yet Noriega, that was the other one my dad and I were talking about. Um, so it is, yes, there are similarities. Now, for an election, there's not. because one, you have to remember, Trump can do all he wants and stand up there and posture about this election, how, well, we're at war with Venezuela, so we can't have an election. First of all, buddy, we had elections during the goddamn Civil War, and that was fought right here in America.
Right.
So if we can vote then, we can vote now. But the other thing I think people miss, states run the election. The federal government has no say on the election.
Exactly.
That is a state reserved power. So he can posture all he wants and not have an election. So fine, guess what? The red states will bow to him. They won't have an election. The blue states will, and he'll still be voted out. Or
Right.
the Republicans will be voted out. But yeah, I mean, he really
Well,
can't hinder the election.
I can't tell you how many times people will come to me and say, "Well, we just won't have elections in the midterms," and I say, "No, that's just not possible." It's like what they say. Oh, they're just going to cheat during a presidential election, and maybe there's some ways they can do that. But when we're talking about the midterms with multiple members of Congress and state seats, there's no real way to organize everything to cheat all those elections. It's just not possible.
It's really not because there's way too many moving parts during the midterms. That seems to be when a lot of states are getting like their house, it's like more the state people that are being elected than the ones that go to the federal government.
Right.
So midterms are big, but yeah, I mean there's no comparison. You really can't compare it, and you can't compare anything to when Joe Biden was president to when Trump is president.
No, it's not even close. And when they say, well, he'll just cheat on those elections. Well, if that were the case, why hasn't he cheated on all these special elections that have gone Democratic? That Tuesday down in Iowa, up in Iowa, down in Virginia or whatever. If he was going to cheat, he would have started now. But it's just not possible. I think people get so frustrated and they feel so beaten. They go, "Fuck, he's just going to do everything," and they pout and they bend their heads and just assume the worst. And that's where I think we have a problem in this country. People assume they're beaten when they're not.
I'm going to tell you something what my grandma used to say, don't borrow trouble. So we don't have that yet. We don't know. Don't borrow trouble. Because it'll your head will make you spin. And I don't know if Donald Trump will be alive to see the midterms.
How are you feeling about him now as you see him on stage, hear what he says, look the way he looks, hear his preferred meal from McDonald's? Jesus Christ.
I Yeah, Jesus Christ is right, that meal. I couldn't even eat that in a day, let
No,
alone in one sitting. I would be
no,
puking. Um, yeah, Donald Trump looks like hell.
he certainly
Um,
does.
and it's weird because you get those pictures, a lot of them are at Mar-a-Lago, when he doesn't notice the camera on him and he looks like beaten down. Um, and I have not seen, now I don't know if anybody else has, pictures of him on the golf course
No, I really haven't either.
in a very long time. It's been a couple months, I think, that I have not seen them. Which tells me that he might be on the golf course, like golfing, but the press is not allowed there. So I don't know if he's just in his golf cart, like running amok, driving up and down the fairway, or if he is somewhere else, like laying down or whatever. Um, I have been following a guy on Instagram, and I forget his damn handle, but he is a physical therapist. He's got a doctorate in his field, and he treats geriatric patients.
Hmm.
And he was talking because we all were going off that he has like Alzheimer's or dementia,
Hmm.
but he now thinks Trump has frontal temporal dementia, which is what Bruce Willis has.
Oh, wow.
So frontal temporal dementia is the one that affects the speech where you slur your words. That is not anything to do with Alzheimer's or dementia.
Really?
So that slurring is just from the frontal temporal dementia. Then the way he stands when he leans forward, that is
Uh-huh.
also frontal temporal dementia. Like that is a symptom of that and nothing else. So he is thinking that Donald Trump has this, which one of the, I guess, things that happens with this frontal temporal dementia is that when you have holes or gaps in the memory, you lie to fill those gaps, but you believe that lie 100%. So when Donald Trump lies now, I think he really believes it. It's called confabulation.
When it comes to lying and believing it, what you're telling me is that it sounds like Donald Trump has had this frontal temporal dementia for like 70 years because he's been lying from the get-go, you know. He's a pathological liar. But now you think instead of just gaslighting, he's buying into whatever he's saying. I said it, so it's true.
Kind of. And it's a symptom of the frontal temporal dementia. You make up something to fill the gap in your memory, and you're like, okay, that's true. You don't realize you're making it up. Like there's not a
Right.
conscious thought there that like, oh, I'm gonna make this up. And I think that's what's happening to him because he when he says it's like he thinks it's true.
Yeah, he
And
does
that
appear to buy into it, no question.
and then the other thing is they noticed the last speech we saw about Venezuela, and he was kind of like looking down because he was reading his speech. He
Right.
has a lot more saliva, which that is a problem. Frontal temporal dementia affects your swallowing,
Oh, really?
and most people die not of the dementia, but of pneumonia because they aspirate into their lungs.
Well, that's interesting because the report is that, 20, 30 years ago, Bubba said he had no problem swallowing, but that's beside the
Right.
Yeah,
But
you have to go back and remember the joke or the story.
but
But um, do you think, is there any way the people around him don't notice what's going on and understand that he's starting to become more and more diminished? I mean, we can see it, but they do a lot to hide it. They pump him up with drugs or whatever they do to get him up for a period of time. But the people are around him 24/7. Is there any way they don't know that this is going on?
no, they know that's why he keeps getting cognitive tests. They're measuring how much his brain has shrunk each couple months. That's why he has so many MRIs. They're looking to see the damage. They know it.
That's the thing is he keeps talking about those cognitive tests, taking them every week or whatever he's doing, and he doesn't realize that's not a flex. He doesn't it's kind of like somebody out in the world taking an STD test every week. The
And
problem isn't STDs, the problem is the people you're fucking hanging around with.
here's the thing, like people are like, he's lying because he's not taking a cognitive test. He's taking this test that measures like dementia.
Right.
But the problem is I think one, either he has filled in the gaps and meant, it's a cognitive test and he actually believes that, or they told him it was a cognitive test, to see how smart he was so he could take it and he doesn't bitch at them.
Right.
Because you got to remember, Donald Trump is like a toddler. So when you take the toddler to the doctor and they're like, is he going to give me a shot? You're like, no, absolutely not. Because they don't want to do it. And he's the same way. He's just a giant fucking orange toddler at this point.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing that whenever I talk to people on the Democratic side, they always try to talk about Donald Trump like he's some mastermind or he has some strategy. And I've always said this guy is a narcissist. Everything he does is emotional, reactionary. He just does whatever comes into his head at that moment. He says whatever comes out of his mouth, whether it's good or not. And proof of that is he constantly implicates himself. He constantly contradicts himself. And it's because he's not thinking about what he's saying. It's like this situation with Venezuela. He goes down there and attacks Venezuela, and people think they got this great plan. Oh, we're going to stop drug trafficking. Then when he gets in there, he says, well, we're going to get oil. And the fact of the matter is, to get oil out of there and to get oil companies down there, it's going to take years and years, and they may not even want to do it. I think Donald Trump is such a simple minded fuck that he says, well, Venezuela has oil. To me, oil means money, so I'm just going to go get it. That's how basic his mind works. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because my father brought that up too. He's like nutsy, just thinks that he's going to be able to go into Venezuela and they're going to start pumping oil tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I said, because he has no idea what the hell goes into it. He doesn't know what it takes to build a refinery and like all this other stuff that you have to do. I'm like, but yeah, he definitely, that's definitely going to be a thing of his. Is he just he's so simple-minded. It's like a kid.
It is. It really is like a child, and a dumb child at that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he thinks you can literally take barrels of oil, put it on a boat, bring it someplace else, and get cash in a bag. He
Mm-hmm.
honestly believes that. That's how he
Yeah.
looks at it.
That's how he has a very simplistic view of things. Like if you ever think about when you talk to like your 4-year-old or your 7-year-old, even your 10-year-old, like they have very simplistic views.
Yeah.
And Trump is the same way. He's the same way. So, he doesn't get it. He doesn't get it, and nobody can explain it to him because he's always the smartest guy in the room.
And people are terrified to push back. That's always been the problem. Media
Right.
doesn't do it, the people around him don't do it.
Right, exactly. Because everybody's afraid of him because he has a total complete meltdown.
But isn't this what we're talking about with Donald Trump? I compare it to my own life when I was a little kid. Okay. I had a narcissistic father. He was a grown up. I was a kid. He would yell and scream. He would say things that weren't true. He would promise things that he'd never deliver. He'd yell. Well, I've given this example before. They exaggerate to make their point. And this is an example I give people to give a basic idea how these people think. Say I'm 8 years old and I want to do something that's be kind of beyond my age. I want to do something bigger boy than an 8 year old. He'll look at me and he goes, God damn it, you're only 7 years old. You can't be doing that stuff. Or if I fuck up and I'm 8 years old, God damn it, you're 9 years old and you're still doing this shit. They exaggerate, they make things up. And this is exactly what Donald Trump is doing. That's one of the reasons when Donald Trump first got elected, I said, oh, fuck, I know what we're doing because I recognize that personality and it's not good. It's not going to be easy to deal with, even though these people think it's funny and he's going to be tough. It always goes south on anybody that gets near him or anybody that counts on them because they always disappoint.
Well, and the thing is with Trump is that he's not just a narcissist, he's a malignant narcissist,
Yeah,
meaning he is a sociopath along with his narcissistic tendencies. So we
without
have a
question.
sociopath in the White House. And we have people in Congress that, like Mike Johnson, that just keep bending over for him.
Yeah. You know what makes Donald Trump worse too? And I've said this, made this comparison. My father was a narcissist, maybe a malignant narcissist. He was a sociopath without question, and he was a pathological liar. The difference between he and Donald Trump is this. My father was kind of smart. He was intelligent. He was diminished because of the afflictions he had with narcissism stuff, but he was smart. He was articulate and he could be very cutting. Donald Trump, thank God, is an idiot. I mean, if you put those two together, it would be interesting. But if it was just a mind on mind thing, my dad would beat him because this fucking guy's stupid. And I don't know if that's because of where his personal mental health is at, or he's always been stupid. I get the impression he's always been stupid because I think his mom and his sister pointed that out when he was young. Dumb has always been where he's at, but he's learned how to bully his way. And when I was a little kid, my dad would say things and do things that nobody agreed with in the family, but we couldn't do anything because we were afraid. Because I'm 7 and he's 30 and he controls everything. So I was scared. The ironic thing is, this is exactly what we're dealing with in Congress and in his administration. Everybody knows it's wrong, knows it's bad, knows it's going to go very wrong, but they're scared.
And I don't know why, because he has no power. He's like a lame duck president. This guy is not going to make it 4 years. There's no
No,
way. There's no way. We are very close to either him dropping dead, and by God, please let it happen on camera where he literally falls down the steps of Air Force One, croaks right there, and shits and pisses himself right there so everybody can see. I want it to be the most, horrific way, the most embarrassing way, because I he just needs that. But either that or his condition is going to get bad and he's going to go out on some news conference and say some batshit crazy stuff, and they're going to have no choice but to remove him.
you mean he hasn't done that yet? I mean, he said some batshit crazy stuff,
He
but
has, but
they all apologize for him. The Republican, I've said this a million times too. What really frustrates me, people always say to me, "Why isn't anybody doing anything about it?" Well, there's only one group of people that can do something about it, and they've refused all along the way. The Republicans in Congress could have shut him down, shut all this shit down in a minute, and they chose not to do it. So when this is all said and done, and you're looking for people to be accountable, every fucking Republican in Congress.
yeah, they are. They are. They're totally hitched their wagon to this guy, and now he's on fire and they're all burning with him.
Yeah.
And yet they still won't rebuke him.
Do you think it's, we're talking about, I've asked this of people, and I can't believe I even have to ask this question. We see what they're going to do with the ACA or what they're not going to do with the ACA, the child care, and all this very draconian shit they're going to do. These people aren't all stupid. They know this is going to destroy them in the election. Do you think that they're resigned to the fact that they're going to get their ass kicked in the election? And they're just doing what people do when they get foreclosed on, just burning down the house beside them just to make a point. I'm surprised if that's what they're doing, but I don't know how else to explain it.
Honestly, I think the Republicans live inside of Donald Trump's echo chamber. So they honestly are so used to going on Fox and Newsmax and and being welcomed, and people just love them over
Yeah.
there. Whenever they go out onto a Sunday show, they get pissed off because somebody asks a question that they don't like because they can't answer it because it would mean that they would have to go against Donald Trump. And then he would say a mean tweet, and then MAGA's going to come after him with pitchforks and knives. So they basically I think they believe their own bullshit. I think that's where we are. They have been lying with impunity for so long that now they believe it. Because any asshat that has gone back home and had a town hall, when people start yelling at them, they all have the same expression like, what? Me? Like, why are you all mad? This is what you all wanted. They're
I've
not
had
getting it.
I've had other people say this to me. What you're saying is, no, they bought into it. They believe it. They think they're fucking winning. And it's so hard for me to believe because it's so obvious that they're not, that they're getting destroyed. And if they do what they continue to do, they're going to decimate the Republican Party. You really think that these people are so co opted by Donald Trump's mania, or whatever you want to call it, that they really buy that they're winning now? You, you think so?
Yes, because they've been doing it. He won in 2016 when everybody said he couldn't.
Right.
2020, he didn't win, but a lot of them won. A lot of
True.
them won in 2020. And then in 2024 or 2022, the Dems took back control of the House. Or no, they gained control. I think the
Yeah, the
Republicans.
Republicans got the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So then I mean, they have been winning. See, they have been able to win, even though Donald Trump lost 2020. They have been able to win. And now they're seeing the tide changing. But for some reason, I think there's some of them that one are like, fuck it, I'm going to get voted out, so I'm just going to burn it down. I think some of them are that way. And I think others of them are like, I'm going to win. Like, who they're not going to vote for the Democrat. Look at these Democrats. Like, Trump is going to help us. Like, we're going to come up with this like great story. Yeah, dude, your leader now has no brains. They're like melting out of his ear. So
Right.
he is not going to be able to help you, even though you think he's going to be able to spin some narrative. He's not. He's incapable of spinning the tales he spun in the last couple elections.
Well, you can tell Donald Trump is worried, though. He has enough wherewithal to be worried. He said yesterday, um, if the Democrats win the House, I'm going to get impeached again.
Hmm.
Yeah, you bet your ass you're going to get impeached. And to be perfectly honest with you, if the Democrats don't win the House and they get wiped out in the midterms, the Republicans might impeach you because you're a liability now.
It's very true. Also, though, he gave that speech and he was worried. You could tell he was worried because he was like, um, why don't they believe like how good stuff is? Like, the economy is great. Like, we need to talk more about that. Like, why don't people believe me? Dude, because they can do math.
Well,
Even the dumbest,
that goes back to what you were saying before that he actually believes this shit. I think in addition to being delusional, I think the people around him tell him what he wants to hear because it goes back to what I'm talking about when you're a kid and you have a narcissistic dad. You say and do anything just not to set him off. Don't piss off daddy. So we'll just make him happy. We'll keep him comfortable, keep him happy, keep him off the bad track. And I'm convinced that that's what they're doing. I think they did that in the first term too. So he's out there talking about how prices are coming down and the polls are great. Um, and it's quite the opposite. It can either be gaslighting and just some ploy by a fucking psychopath like Donald Trump, or he really buys into it. And if he really buys into it, that just tells you how out of touch and how uh, intellectually diminished this fucking clown is, because it's pretty obvious.
well, first of all, he believes that tariffs really are making stuff better because he doesn't know how a tariff works. He has
Yeah.
no idea. So he actually, I think, does believe that. Like he really does. The other thing is when people talk about his polls, I'm telling you right now, there ain't no motherfucker in that White House that is giving him the right poll.
Oh, way.
There's not one jackass in that administration, even an aide, that is giving him the true numbers in the true poll. They are lying to him.
When you talk about tariffs, I think he looks at tariffs kind of like he looks at Venezuela with the oil. Venezuela has a whole bunch of oil. We're going to go take over. We're going to take the oil. We'll make all kinds of money. With tariffs, it's the same thing. He's very transactional. We put the tariffs on. We tighten the screws to these people. We threaten them with this and that, and we collect more money. He doesn't care where the fucking money comes from or who it affects. All he knows is there's a bunch of money and he can get his paws on it. That's the simplicity in this guy's mind. He can't look down the road or see how it affects other people. And I think you're right. I think he does believe the tariffs are working because they are collecting some money, not 17 trillion, more like 90 billion. But unfortunately, that $90 billion came from you and me and everybody else listening. But he can't grasp that or he doesn't care.
I it it's like a combination of the two. I is like the best I can give you. But yeah, I think he does though believe a lot of it. I mean,
Yeah,
I really do. Um, and I do think that his people, even in his first term, lied to him because they didn't want to deal with the tantrum that it would impose because he had tantrums in his first term.
right.
He went off on people. And the other thing, when he's up all night, because he just did it again, where he's posting and reposting like every 2 minutes or 3 minutes, that is sundowning because his circadian rhythm is mixed up.
Right. And he's
So,
panicked. He thinks by putting
yeah,
something on True Social, he can change the narrative. And maybe there
yeah.
was a time he could, but he thinks, okay, this is bad, so I'm going to say this and then it'll be fixed. That's what he's thinking.
And the other thing is JFK's granddaughter died. He posted
Yeah.
some shit about her, and who else did he go after when they just died? Um, uh, Rick Reiner, who died? Carl,
Car- uh,
not
yeah, Rob Reiner.
Rob Reiner. That's it. I want to say Carl Reiner. And he posted that vile shit about him too. That is also, I mean, Donald Trump has always been cruel.
Yeah.
He's always been cruel, but he's never been this cruel. And I think we need to get used to it because that is also another symptom of like dementia and stuff where they become crueler. They become the worst version of themselves. So
Yeah.
think about how bad this piece of crap was when he was himself, and now he's going to become even worse. So we have to start getting ready because he's going to be really, really mean. I mean, like nothing we've seen before.
Well, I've talked about that, what I know of narcissists, and I've seen the complete arc with narcissists, my father especially. You go up, everything's going good. They're doing these horrible things, but people love them. Then they start to spiral, things start going wrong. And then they really start going wrong and it becomes unmanageable for them because that's what narcissists do. They balance lies, they balance problems, and they spin them off each other. But there always comes a point when there's too much to handle. And then you throw in the fact that he's becoming diminished mentally and intellectually because of his diseases, and it's impossible for him to manage them. And what narcissists do when they get cornered like that and there's no way out, they just start flailing like a shithouse rat. They'll bite anything, they'll say anything, they do anything. So the bad news is for the next couple of 3 or 4 months, it's going to be real bad. It's going to be real ugly. And as long as the Republicans allow him to get away with it, he will get away with it. The good news is this is a signal we're not that far from the end. We're not that far from the crash.
Oh yeah, I think we're very close. I think we've got if he can survive another month, I mean, this
Really?
is going yeah. This train is I mean, this train is running out of track, ladies and gentlemen. Like we're hitting the cliff where he's just gonna drive right off. Um, and I think we're getting close to it because I think he invaded Venezuela, one, to hide that the Epstein files had not all been released by their date that they were supposed to be released, so now they're in violation of another law.
Right.
And I also think that he invaded Venezuela to cover up his health story because the Wall Street Journal gave that whole thing about his health, and he was pissed about that, and he couldn't change the narrative.
Right.
He's trying to
No,
distract us.
well, and that's something narcissists do all the time. They distract you from something. If they're in a situation they can't answer, I get it from people uh, when I talk to people online. You know, you'll say Donald Trump did this, and they don't address that issue. They'll say, "Yeah, but Joe Biden did this, and Kamala Harris did this." They can't address the issue, so they divert. And this is what Donald Trump is going through now. The problem is in these diversions, he's making huge mistakes. He's going down to Venezuela, and whether or not he has immunity for some of these things, people like Pete Hegseth, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, the generals, the brass, these are international crimes. And there will be accountability for it. And these people don't have immunity. I can't believe they aren't realizing this. We're in the waning days of Donald Trump. He is going to be dead at some point. And then who's going to protect you? Because the Democrats get in control. There's going to be a lot of motherfuckers that don't have immunity are going to have to answer some questions, and there's going to be nobody to divert around it.
I think that JD Vance will come in and he'll cover for them and he'll help them turn this ship around. That is not going to happen. Like,
No,
um, it's not. And I can tell you that Curtis Yarvin and Peter Thiel, who are behind um, Vance,
yeah,
Curtis Yarvin has already come out and said we need an exit plan for 2028. Like, we need to find a way to get the hell out of the country. He's already come out and said it because this is not going how it was supposed to go.
Well, you know, when Yarvin and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel picked out, because make no mistake, they picked out who the vice presidential candidate was. They put some leverage on Don Jr. Don Jr. talked to Don Sr., and that's how he became, because that's not the kind of guy that Donald Trump would pick. Now, it's good in their minds because he's kind of a tech bro and he's on their side. But what they didn't count on was that he have no charisma, no personality. He's not as bright as he claims to be. He doesn't know how to deal with people. He's socially awkward, and nobody in the Republican Party likes him. So make him president. He won't accomplish anything. And I'm convinced when Donald Trump dies, we're going to see a flood of shit coming out on Donald Trump. It'll be the new sport, taking down and exposing all the shit that Donald Trump did. And if JD Vance survives that or can accomplish anything, it's going to be, he won't be able to do it. Then you add into the point, let's say the Democrats take control of the House and the Senate. Donald Trump or JD Vance isn't going to do jack shit but listen to hearings for the next 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, Vance is not any help to them. I
No,
don't think they've figured that out. I think they're still thinking that they can get him over the hump in 2028. They're never going to be able to do it. Uh,
no.
I mean, Turning Point USA had their little fest, and Erica Kirk came out and said they were going to get JD elected in 2028. And I'm like, lady, you're never going to be able to do it. And the right wing doesn't like his wife. They don't like Usha Vance. She's Hindi.
She's brown. She's an immigrant.
Yeah, his t kids are brown.
Yeah.
The MAGA don't like him at all. And Vivek Ramaswamy is finding that out in Ohio. They hate him.
Well, and you know, the other thing I find funny, we have those women members of the House of Representatives who are resigning, and they were saying they don't feel like uh, the Republican Party is treating them properly. Well, no shit. Did you read Project 2025? You're a
I,
woman. You ain't shit. You're second class citizens. You're just now realizing that?
mhm, yeah. And Erica Kirk is getting the same feedback because they're all like, how can you run Turning Point USA? Because you talked about traditional values.
Yeah.
Charlie believed in traditional values.
Well, his version of traditional values, his version of traditional values
But he
different
he
than mine.
he believed in where the women should be in the home. I'm talking about that, they're not working, they're home with their kids. That traditional, whatever the Republicans have made. Um, he believed that.
The
And
problem
now
with
his
Erica
wife
Kirk, too,
is
she's a
CEO of
weirdo.
Turning Point. What?
And she's a weirdo. She's strange. She's weird. There's something off about her.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, because so this is kind of what I wanted to get into, not Erica Kirk, but the whole like right wing is sort of breaking down. Um, and it's weird. So I have been, even in my time off, I've been paying attention to what's going on in MAGA. And not like I don't care about the bullshit the Republicans put out. I'm more talking about like their base and the people in them. So somebody said, and I watched a video, that Nick Fuentes has a bigger base than Charlie Kirk ever did.
Really?
And I was like, really? So I started watching Nick Fuentes. And I know people on the left, they're always like, how can you watch him? He's such an asshole. He is. He's a complete and total racist piece of shit. I didn't say I liked the guy. I watched the guy because if you don't know what the hell your enemy is doing, you can't defeat them. So this whole thing that like if you're left wing, you can't listen to right wing shit is ridiculous because they listen to our stuff and call us out. So Nick Fuentes does have a decent following behind him. He
Really?
does. And believe it or not, most of his followers are black.
Black? Really?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And the guy
Wow.
is a racist. And he has women that follow him and he hates women. I personally think he's gay, but I'm not there to call it out. Now, the things I've learned from Nick Fuentes, one, if you piss off that man, he will spill the tea on everybody. He doesn't care. He'll take you all down. So he is amazing at that because I get insights from him, especially about JD Vance
Yeah.
and Peter Thiel and Curtis Yarvin, because he knows all about that shit. So he's got good information. If you can stand to listen to his racist stuff, which sometimes I want to throw up in my garbage can as I'm listening to him because he's
Right.
horrible. The other thing is the guy has a personality. He's funny. He did a takedown of Donald Trump and he compared Donald Trump to the green M&M
How so?
because remember when Donald Trump went on this tirade in the Oval Office about Somalians,
Yeah.
the Somalis, and everybody was like, "What?" Like nobody had brought anything up, and all of a sudden this Yahoo's out here yelling from the rooftop. So Nick Fuentes was like, he goes, "Did you like that little racist tirade?" He's like, "That's all it was." He's like, "It's a marketing strategy." He's like, "The guy's like the green M&M. He's just a marketing strategy. He's not going to do anything about that." Like he threw out that meat because the base was starting to move away from him. So he gives them the red meat and he hopes that they stay with him and they pipe down.
Right.
Except Nick is over here because he's got his feathers ruffled. And that guy also outs Israel. Like, if you ever want to know how involved Israel is in our politics, really, listen to Nick Fuentes.
Well, we know that we send them $300 billion a year. We know they put money in the pockets of virtually every member of Congress. They're heavily involved. And they've even passed the narrative that if you say anything against Israel, you're an anti Semite. And I don't really care if people think I'm an anti Semite. I'm not. I don't care what religion people are, but I will say I'm against genocide. And there's no doubt that Israel is committing genocide. That
Oh,
doesn't mean the people of Israel are bad. That means your leadership is bad. And I can relate to that because we have the same situation here.
and Nick Fuentes has also told his gripers to lay low and not tell anyone they are a griper.
Okay, I'll keep it down low. I'm a groiper.
You know what I mean? Like he's telling them like not to like let it out there. Um, and he has said like he's not a Vance fan. And
That's
JD
good.
Vance is going to be pro-Israel. You know he is. And Nick
No,
Fuentes
they all are.
has already told his base that they're not voting in 2028. Like he's that fucking pissed and he hates Vance. He can't stand JD Vance. And I mean, he went on a tirade about his wife that was the grossest thing I think I've ever listened to. It was disgusting. I couldn't believe how bad it was.
It was a
Um,
racial thing.
oh God, yeah, it was so terrible. It was awful. Um, but again, the thing is then he did a video about Erica Kirk when remember when she gave that interview and she had those eyes and she was like, "Stop, just stop." And Nick Fuentes was like, "Oh, well, shiver me timbers." He's like, "Are we supposed to be afraid?" I mean, and he had her face, he did her voice. See, this is what I mean. He is a character. He can go out there and kind of perform, kind of like Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
They have personalities. Vance has nothing.
No, he's
And
very one dimensional.
and Nick Fuentes has said that. And Nick Fuentes went on another one and he listed every name that JD Vance has ever had.
Yeah, I've heard
He
this.
and he just went from one name to the next and the next and finally got to JD Vance and he's like, "So how the fuck am I supposed to vote for you? I don't even know who you are."
That's always been my contention too, and I'm curious as to what you think or what history might tell us. Um, as we get into the midterms, we know how bad it is for the Republicans, and we know that it's not looking good in the midterms. I think the Democrats might be making a mistake in hoping to get Republicans to vote Democrat. I think what's going to happen is a lot of them will just choose not to vote at all, which I'm fine with. But I think that's what's going to happen. People are going to get upset. They can't bring themselves to vote Democrat, so they just won't vote at all, which I hope happens. But do you get that same sense?
Yeah, I'm split 50-50 on that. So MAGA has been starting to break apart. So really the first crack that came in was when they came out around July 4th and said there are no Epstein files. They had a fit. Then Charlie Kirk died. And then Trump the next day was like, yeah, it's fine. Look at my ballroom. Didn't care about Charlie Kirk dying.
Right,
Then
right.
Eric Kirk has a memorial service for Charlie Kirk, and they got pyrotechnics and they're selling merchandise. So they were all like, what the hell's that shit? Then Erica Kirk held the Turning Point USA convention or whatever. She came out looking like a disco ball.
Yeah. Did she come out hanging from the ceiling or something?
No, she walked out on stage, but she was head to toe in like a sequin outfit. I mean, she looked like a solid gold dancer. So she comes out like it's American Bandstand, and she's got like pyrotechnics going off and shit, and she's telling you that they're going to get everybody elected and all this stuff. Now, the problem is that in the lobby of this whole event, that where they had you could go around different things and you could register to vote and blah blah blah. They set up the booth where Charlie Kirk was dead, where he died, where you could take selfies. They even had a selfie ring light in there.
She seems to be really attracted to the spotlight, and she seems to be a horrible actress.
And MAGA was like, what the fuck? Like, that's gross. When I heard about that, I had to go double check. It's true. And I was like, I feel bad for Charlie. Like, if you're his widow, like, if that was me and that my husband had died that way, I would never want a booth set up where you could take selfies. That's gross.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like being in the morgue and taking selfies with the people that come in. These are my friends. What?
I
So,
think, if we want to talk about conspiracy theories and everything, what I've seen about Erica Kirk up to this point, she seems like a plant to marry Charlie Kirk, kind of an opportunity because of some of her connections with, the situation in Romania, the situation with Donald Trump. Apparently, she's somehow indirectly connected to Israel. Something was going on there other than pure love.
well, yeah, I mean, I agree. And so MAGA has been sort of fighting, but then and they've been starting to break away. So the MAGA base has been starting to like break away because the problem is you can go out and gaslight as much as you want about gas prices and grocery prices, but the
Yeah,
people who are paying the prices at the pump and at the grocery store know that prices have gone up. They're
absolutely.
not they're not that stupid. Even the dumbest MAGA can figure it out. Okay? And they when they add two and two, they get five, but they'll still know that now they're paying six and they shouldn't. So everybody is feeling this. Trump can't hide that.
No,
Then the Epstein files start to come out, and they've releasing whole files that are completely redacted. And MAGA was like, "What the actual fuck is going on? Like, you people aren't supposed to be doing this shit." But then the podcasters, the whole right-wing podcast like group that they had that like put out the message, oh no, they're all fighting. Oh my God, they're a mess. They are a mess. I've never seen anything like it. So the thing, so Tucker Carlson was what started this. Now this is insane. So Tucker Carlson has Nick Fuentes on his show, and the right wing podcast sphere loses their minds because you had him on there and you didn't disavow him enough.
right.
We should be disavowing him. But Tucker is smart enough to know that Nick Fuentes has a lot of people from Charlie Kirk that migrated to him.
True.
Charlie left a void, and Nick seems to be picking up that void. And Tucker realized that. So Tucker doesn't really disavow him because Tucker is not exactly 100% for Israel. I mean, he pushed back on Ted Cruz a lot in that interview, when he did with him. So he's not exactly, he is, I mean, he's usually pro-Israel, but I think lately he's been having some kind of like doubting. Then, so then the head of the Heritage Foundation didn't want to disavow Nick Fuentes because Nick Fuentes is getting the Charlie Kirk people, and they need those people to vote in the next election. So he
Right.
sort of comes out like lukewarm, being like, well, he criticized the Israeli government, not the Jewish people, which is true. I mean, it's 100% true. People quit the Heritage Foundation over this. High
Really.
ranking people in the Heritage Foundation left because of this shit.
Wow.
Because you can't be lukewarm on Israel if you're in the Heritage Foundation.
You got to be all on board with
You
Israel.
you got to be all on board, which is crazy because these people talk about Christianity and now they're talking about Jewish people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's weird. They have this thing. I heard Ted Cruz say it. Well, in the Bible, it says we protect Israel. So if God says that, that's what we do. And that's all well and good. But Israel, that was founded in 1948, is different than Israel 2,000 years ago.
exactly. And by the way, Jesus was born in the Gaza Strip. Just
Exactly.
just so we're all aware. But yes, there's nothing there is a Bible passage that they're taking out of context. But when they talked about Israel in the Bible, they meant the people.
Right.
They were not talking about land. God has no. Do you think Jesus and God have ties to land? I mean, how stupid does that even sound? It's dumb. They have ties to people.
Right.
So then Candace Owens, who's always been anti Semitic, she has been going on about Charlie Kirk, like trying to find out what the hell is happening with Charlie Kirk. And honestly, she has a lot of decent info.
Well,
So then people,
the interesting thing about her is she's known to be a little crazy, but she doesn't sound it. She looks very put together. She's
she's
very
very articulate.
articulate. She's very articulate and she's very organized in what she's going to say. Now, whether you want to believe her or not, that's another story. But if you were going to have a leader talking for your group, it would be her. Nick Fuentes is kind of a cartoon character,
Yes,
frankly.
yes,
He's popular, but he's a cartoon character like Donald Trump was. If you
yes.
want a solid, professional looking person, it would be
Candace,
Candace. And it's not that I like her or I trust her or I think but she is smart. It's like what I was talking about before with my dad. He was a narcissist. He was smart. He was dangerous. Donald Trump is dangerous, but he's dumb as fuck.
and Nick Fuentes is also smart, but
Yeah.
he's still a cartoonist, but he is smart. So you got to watch out for those people. And Candace Owens is smart. She's articulate and she's poised and she's put together and she makes sense. Like she does make sense. And some of her investigations, I mean, she really digs up info. Like I'm telling you, she does. So then Tim Pool got mad at her because he tried to blame her because somebody came to his house and shot at his front yard. We come to find out later his brother was the one who shot at his front yard. They enacted the whole thing. So Tim Pool could go on his podcast and disparage, Candace Owens because she said something about Ted Pool, and he's like, "Well, now she thinks I killed Charlie Kirk." That is not at all what she said. They were not at all related, but somehow he didn't read the words in between. So he's arguing with her. Tucker Carlson is on the outs. Nobody likes Nick Fuentes because he's a raging asshat. Laura Loomer is out here screaming that we have a Nazi problem in the right wing. Lady, you are one of them, but okay. So I mean, then you go into Turning Point USA. Ben Shapiro talks shit about everybody. Steve Bannon talks shit about people. I mean, their whole thing, they didn't even go after Dems. Can you believe this? They had an entire conference at Turning Point USA with like 100,000 people, and they never went after the left wing. They went after each other.
It doesn't do any good to go after the Dems until you have unity on the right side because you can't beat them to split up the way they are. People have to understand something. I think you would fall in this category. I fall in this category. Anybody who's used to talking in public, you could take a topic. I know I could do this because I've done it before. You could take any topic and I could take either side, whether I believed it or not, take out little things to make it sound relevant, make it sound credible, and I could sell that motherfucking thing even if I didn't believe it. So whenever you hear Candace Owen or anybody else telling these things, they go, God, that makes sense. You have to understand they know what the fuck they're doing. I could make a lot of shit sound. I've done it before in situations where I've picked the side I don't believe in and tried to sell it. And people can do that, especially if they're good and articulate and smart. Candace Owens is. So you can't trust anything that comes out of her fucking mouth, to be honest. She'll make you think. She might even make you believe. But if you
Unless
trust her, you're
there's
making a mistake.
provable stuff. You have to be
Well,
able to
yeah,
prove it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and I can do the same thing. I mean, and I'm going to tell you that I have done the same thing in my career. As a retail manager, I once was walking with my regional manager and my district manager. My regional manager asked me about something and she's like, "What's your plan?" And I literally gave her a plan that was all off the top of my effing head.
you
I
pulled it
had,
out of your ass.
I
And she
did,
said, that's fucking brilliant.
I know. And she was like, "Well, that sounds like a solid plan." And my boss is like behind me like this. And he was like, "How long have you had that plan?" I go, "Why?" He's like, "How the hell did you do that on the spur of the moment?" I'm like, "Because I am that good." And he's like, "Now I'm afraid of you." But seriously, I can. Like, I can make it, I can sell it. Like, I could sell it to you. And she is the same way.
She
She
is.
is she is the same way. So, and she's doing it for money. I mean, let's face it, she's doing it for money. Nicki Minaj was at Turning Point USA. I mean, she called JD Vance the assassin.
How did that turn out for her? She lost her record deal. She lost her tour. Nobody
She
wants to buy her shit. She was
lost
fading
10 million
anyways.
followers on Instagram in a day. They had to pull down her Instagram account.
How did they not know that was going to happen? If I'm a manager in the music business, and I was at one point, I'd say, shut the fuck up. Don't even get into this shit.
Well, Nicki Minaj, her husband and her brother need pardons.
Yeah, I guess I've heard that. Yeah.
And so I think that was part of it. Also, Nicki Minaj is an immigrant, and I think she was kind of afraid that they would send her back. But yeah, she went out and lost her entire career
You did.
because the black people are like, "Oh, hell no." And that, I mean, yeah, lost her career. So MAGA is completely in fucking pieces. I mean, they are in fucking pieces. A lot of them now have come to the realization Donald Trump was working with Epstein. Um,
I think that's true. I mean, I think
I-
that's part of the reason they want to hide it so much.
well, and I also think the other thing is Les Wexner. They were using the Victoria's Secret models as the beauty pageant there to front trafficking too.
Really.
Yeah, Les Wexner is in those Epstein files like all the way, and he
Oh,
owns
he's
Victoria's
not.
Secret.
He's not only in the Epstein files. Les Wexner basically started Jeffrey Epstein out. He
Yeah,
was the first
hmm,
funder of Jeffrey Epstein.
yeah,
He was
he
the
was.
big sugar daddy for Jeffrey Epstein.
Hmm.
That's how he started to get rich. Yeah, that guy's culpable.
And Jeffrey Epstein, from what I've read in the files, I mean, he could get a meeting with Putin anytime he wanted.
Yeah,
You're talking that guy had power, and he was, and it's come to somebody, somebody from Israel was outing it, and they were saying that Bibi Netanyahu is blackmailing Trump.
I don't doubt it.
Because Bibi Netanyahu has the Epstein files.
Well, that would be in line with what people say. And again, it sounds like conspiracy theory, but when we know how insidious the Israeli government is inside our government, it's not so hard to believe. Um, People have said that Jeffrey Epstein had his connections to Israel, and he did. It was all about blackmail. Was it all for Jeffrey Epstein, or was it for Russia? Was it for Israel? Was it for other foreign countries to hold sway over American government officials?
Well, what I'm thinking is Jeffrey Epstein seems to be like the head guy.
He's the
Like
face of it.
he's like the kingpin. And I think he just had blackmail on anybody.
But don't you think he was answering to some of these bigger people, like in these other countries that might be utilizing him? I mean, he was the kingpin in the United States. Donald Trump was probably a partner or a little lower, but I think he was involved in the business part of it. To think there was $1.5 billion out there, Donald Trump, had these pageants and Mar-a-Lago and stuff. To think that he wasn't intertwined in getting his taste in terms of the money, that's crazy to think of. That's just not how Donald Trump does business.
Trump was getting his money.
Yeah.
Trump was getting his money from Epstein. I mean, there now has come out in the files that, you had to pay Epstein for how many hours you wanted with the girl. Like, we know now that they were paying for this, but Donald Trump was in it. He was helping Epstein. But the thing is that Epstein knew Donald Trump was a complete and total idiot. I mean, he
Yeah.
knew he was an idiot. So Trump didn't exactly, handle the money or any of that. But I think Epstein was the guy that you went to get something to blackmail somebody with.
Probably.
And
Probably.
heads of state and things like that. Because, I mean, he could get in meeting with Putin anytime he wanted. He was like, you sure Putin got that tape? He got the info. He was giving it to Putin in 2016.
Yeah.
So I am pretty sure that Putin and Netanyahu have stuff that Donald Trump doesn't want out because Israel is the one that wants Venezuela.
Yeah. It's interesting too. When you look at some of those files, it was very clear that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were talking about taking down Donald Trump,
Yep.
taking down the president of the United States at the time.
Hmm.
They were going to take him down. You got to have a lot of balls or a lot of protection to even throw that out there.
Uh-huh.
Because if you don't kill the king, you're going to be done. So that would suggest, a Putin or a Netanyahu or somebody else, the king of England, for all the fuck I know, or the prince of England anyway at the time. Um, I think Epstein had a lot of clout. I think he was the main guy kind of facilitating everything. I think Donald Trump was involved, but not as a mastermind because he's not a mastermind. But I think he was getting his taste, his cut.
They were
Kind of
trafficking.
like a mafia don saying,
Right.
send some money up the fucking
E-
line.
exactly. And he was the guy that was giving them girls either from Mar-a-Lago or his beauty pageant.
Right. Right.
It didn't matter. He was funneling them the same way.
Well,
So
did you hear about this lawsuit though that came out of the files? And I don't know much about it. I, I heard it came from the file, so I have to believe it's real. But this lawsuit is from somebody who was a victim slash survivor, and it's against Donald Trump for doing the very same thing that Epstein
mhm,
was doing.
yeah.
And they said Donald Trump's partners were Elon Musk and Bill Gates. Now, I don't know how real that story is, but apparently that document is out there.
Well, Bill Gates is in this shit.
Oh, no question.
Bill Gates is in this
That little
shit.
weirdo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he is a weirdo. And he's all over the Epstein files. And so is Peter Thiel. And Peter Thiel is gay, so I have to believe they were also trafficking young men.
Well, that's the interesting thing. We hear nothing about young men in this. And it would seem silly if you're a businessman that it would be just women if there's so many people out there that have an interest in young boys. Do you think that's one of the secrets that people are so terrified of getting exposed that there were young boys involved as well because of the homosexual suggestion?
I do, I also think that there is a lot of stuff in there, like torture and kidnapping. I think they kept girls like tied up. I also think there's murder. I mean, you heard the story about Trump in Lake Michigan,
Yeah, what did you think about that story? I mean, it sounds crazy, but then again, Donald Trump doesn't seem to be all that concerned about collateral damage. He did have some ties in Lake Michigan. He owned a boat that was like a casino on Lake Michigan. He had some spent some time up there. That doesn't mean he did it. And it sounds like a crazy story, but based on what we've lived through for the last 10 years, you can take the craziest story and you got to go, well, you got to
I
give it
mean,
consideration because
it
we've
was
heard such crazy shit.
it was in the emails, and I have to think that at that time, I think Jeffrey Epstein had enough dirt that he didn't need to lie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he doesn't need to lie. Like he's got dirt on everybody.
Yeah.
So unless you were gonna implicate him, then I would say yes, he's lying. But I mean, if you think about it, they never said that Trump did anything. But I have a funny feeling that he impregnated that girl. And that's why he was there in Lake Michigan when they drowned the baby, because he wanted to make sure it was done.
You know,
Or
this is
he,
this is one of those stories I said I hope is a conspiracy theory. I
right?
hope it's not true.
Yeah, but I think we're going to find out that there are worse things than even that.
So what do you think happens at this point? We've had some of the Epstein files released. Uh, Marjorie Taylor Greene is retired now or resigned from Congress. She talked about quoting the names on the House floor. She's not going to be able to do that now. She didn't come through with that. That doesn't mean Massey or somebody else won't do it. How do you think this plays out? Because they're doing everything they can to delay this stuff. They were supposed to release all the files on December 19th. They didn't do that. This past week, they were supposed to um, release the information explaining why they redacted certain things. They didn't do that. They've redacted immense amounts of things, yet still some pretty damning information comes out. How does this progress? I mean, with all the stuff with Venezuela, it just seems logical to me that some Epstein file shit's going to flare up this week. They're not going to let it get off the front page.
Honestly, I think right now that shit is coming out and it's going to come out. One fucking way or another, it's going to come out. Because
Yeah.
if the DOJ doesn't start releasing stuff, I think you're going to find that people are going to start releasing it on their own.
Well, that's one thing that I think Rashkin or somebody said in the House of Representatives, told the people that are rank and file in the DOJ and the FBI, look, there are whistleblower laws. We can protect you. Because you know that there are people that are working their 30 years just trying to get by and trying to pay their bills, and they don't like what's going on at the top. And they're afraid they might be implicated in some of this shit because they're down the line of getting all this stuff down. Um, I've said that before. I'm expecting some kind of leaks, or I'm expecting more coming out of the oversight committee by way of the Epstein estate, or I think these victims are going to talk a member of Congress into doing this on the floor. But these victims, they're pissed because every time it looks like they're getting some help, they don't. There's a lot of things going on here. There's a lot of moving parts, and something's going to break.
Well, the other thing is, I think at this point we have to be like Russia has the files. I, Israel has the files.
Yeah.
I bet you England has files.
Oh, well, yeah, because they kicked out the prince before we even knew half as much about the prince. So they
Right.
must know
So
something.
they must have known. So they knew what was coming out. So, and I bet you there are other governments like France, Canada, maybe they may have some of this.
We know members of Congress have seen things that would be damning against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They've said it.
So,
They've fucking seen it. They've seen the names, members of Congress. So, and why they aren't going to release it, we know why the Republicans wouldn't, but the Democrats, I don't know what they're waiting for. to get this done. We could end
Well,
this thing very quickly by doing away with Donald Trump and starting to get things at least better.
I think they're gonna start doing that. I think one, you know, I think they were waiting to see if the law would be upheld, for one.
Mm.
I also think they got sidetracked now with Venezuela,
Which was by design.
which yeah, it was by design. So I also think that they attacked Venezuela because Jack Smith was testifying in the House and he that shit got leaked.
Why? Why did the Republicans do that? The only thing I can think of, there was no point in bringing Jack Smith in. And if they brought Jack Smith in, it could go nothing but bad because they had nothing to argue with him with. He's smart, he's specific, and he laid everything out. They did it behind closed doors, and then they agreed to release the information. They had to know they were going to look bad. I don't understand what the point was of bringing him in to interview him because it wasn't going to benefit him other than Donald Trump saying, let's bring him in and embarrass him.
It was basically to shut up Donald Trump,
Right.
to shut Donald Trump up. The Republicans knew that they had no hope in that meeting. That's why it was behind closed doors.
Right.
And they released that info on New Year's Eve, hoping that
Yeah.
no one would notice. So that they would just put it out there quietly. Nobody said shit about it. And then all of a sudden we bombed Venezuela. But that stuff still did make it out.
Right.
I mean, I've seen videos of Jack Smith. Like his testimony is, I mean, the Republicans tried their damnedest to catch him in something, and he was not having it. He was not having it because he's infinitely smarter than these people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's
yeah, so again, a lot of this is like distraction. But the Republicans did it to shut Trump up. They interviewed the guy, they brought him in. That's why they did it behind closed doors so they don't come out looking like jackasses. They release it on New Year's Eve, hoping that everybody in America is so drunk that they don't sober up for till February 1st, hoping to God that we all miss it. And then Venezuela gets bombed, and they're like, yay, we got away with it. And then all of a sudden, you go on Instagram and everything's Jack Smith, Jack Smith, Jack Smith because somebody found it and put it out there.
right.
They have not yet learned how social media works.
Apparently not. The Jack Smith thing worked against them. It didn't help them at all. And that's so typical. Another thing that they wanted to do was another distraction. And I know about this quite well because I live in Minnesota. This whole idea of ginning up this fraud that happened in Minnesota and then trying to tie it to the Somalis. First and foremost, this thing happened 6 or 7 years ago. Secondly, the Biden administration, I think, prosecuted 87 of them. Secondly, there were Somalis involved, but the head of the fucking pyramid was a white lady.
That's
So
why
it
the
wasn't
Trump
Somal.
administration didn't prosecute. They had that stuff. They didn't prosecute
Right, right,
because
exactly.
it was all white people at the top. So the Biden administration was the one that picked it up because the Trump administration dropped it.
Now, Tim Walz came out and said, I'm not going to run for governor. It would have been kind of a historic third term, and he's not running for governor again. So now the Republicans are going, oh, we took down Tim Walz. He's a criminal and all this stuff. And Donald Trump has a hard on for Minnesota because Tim Walz and they're a blue state. He's sending 2,000 more fucking troops or ICE into this state. It's not going to go well. People don't tolerate that shit. But again, it's what I've always said. They always fuck up because the moment before Tim Walz was going to say, I'm not running for a reelection, he gets into talks with Amy Klobuchar, who may be the most popular politician in Minnesota. Okay.
Hmm.
She wins her Senate seat, no problem. She would win the governorship, no problem. And people will say, well, she's still got 4 or 5 years left on her term. She just won the Senate. Why would she want to quit and go be governor? Well, she's 65 years old. She just went through cancer. She maybe
Oh,
wants to be at home with her family and her grandkids and all that stuff. It's a calmer situation to be governor than it is in what now is a shit show in Congress. So it
hmm.
makes sense that she would want to
Yeah.
um, be governor as opposed to being a senator for the next 5 years because she's going to be 70 then. But then I had a speculation. This was interesting. There was a speculation I had. They said, well, poor Tim Walz, he's screwed. I go, don't worry about Tim Walz. Because what could happen is Klobuchar could win the governorship. And just before, she doesn't have to quit being senator to
Okay.
run for governor. Before the inauguration, she quits her job in the Senate seat, takes over as governor. Then what happens? The governor of the state of Minnesota appoints somebody to take the rest of that term. So she theoretically could go, Tim, you're unemployed. Go be senator. And these
Yeah.
people, these Republicans that think they owned us, are once again going to look stupid. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. But what was funny, I did it yesterday morning or the morning before, and I said, purely speculation. I have no inside track. But if I'm thinking the way they may be thinking, Klobuchar may run for governor, and then she may appoint Tim Walz. Well, she announced today that she is running for governor.
Oh,
So we
okay.
know that's going to happen. Now, the other part of it, whether she appoints Peggy Flanagan or Angie Craig or Tim Walz, we don't know what it is, but all over TikTok, people are reporting it as it's a fact. And people say, look, people are saying, it looks like you were right. I go, I still don't know if I'm right. I
Right.
think a lot of people heard me say it or somebody else say it, and they're assuming it's right, and they're just reporting it as such. So when I tell you this, this would be a fantasy scenario for me. I don't know that that's what's going to happen. You don't know that, but it
No,
would be
you don't.
cool if it did.
It would be. It would be. I have to say that would be really cool. Like
That would
that
be
would
hilarious.
it would. It would be hilarious. I mean, I could see it happening. I feel bad that Tim Walz isn't running because I think he's been really good for your state.
Oh, he's been great. You know, the Republicans don't like him. He's a tyrant, and then they try to pin this fraud on him. And you know, the buck stops with the governor. But the point of it is this is old news. This is something that's been going on for a long time, and a lot of it has been adjudicated. It's a bad situation, and it's part and parcel to the way government runs. They're fucking lazy. There's corrupt people in it, and it's
And
not just Minnesota. It's every fucking where.
the thing is I have said this to people like, because they're like, look, there's no kids going in the daycare. First of all, what daycare is going to open their doors for some lunatic who wants to see the kids?
The bunch of guys in masks.
Right. They also are on same protocol as any school is with school shootings. So
Yeah,
they have like locked doors. We got to get buzzed in and shit. They also have stuff on their windows where the kids can see out, but nobody can see in because they have to protect your children and they are protecting babies who can't even talk yet.
right,
I mean,
right.
think about the people that they protect on a daily basis. That is like newborns and one, they've got infants in there. So they're not going to let some crazy person, they don't know if you're a stalker with a gun or a pedophile. And
Absolutely. Well, and
and
this
these
this kid thinks
MAGAs who
he's
are
a
just
journalism.
they're like, well, I'm doing investigation. Listen, Joe Blow, you're not an investigator. Like this is and they're all but then in one of those videos that the influencer on social media started all this, I forget his name. In the video behind him, people are dropping off their children
Yeah,
in the daycare, and he was like, "Oh, now they're trying to save face," because people were calling it out.
yeah. Well, this kid is not a journalist. He's a 23-year-old kid. I've heard him talk. He's not especially smart.
No,
He was goaded and pushed into it by the Speaker of the House of the Minnesota legislature. Um,
really.
yes, she's the one behind it, and she's also happens to be running for governor. Isn't that interesting? She wanted to take down
Mm,
Tim Walz, and she was going to diminish Tim Walz and by pushing this kid out there. First of all, this kid's going to get sued into oblivion. Second of
yeah,
all, people don't know his parents have been sued for guess what? Fraud, big time fraud. So
yikes.
this is all falling apart. So Miss DeMuth wanted to get Tim Walz, but you know what she got? She got Amy Klobuchar. Good luck trying to beat Amy Klobuchar, you stupid bitch, after you've been exposed for being part of this fraudulent experience yourself.
So she's the one that started this whole thing.
She pushed this kid into doing it, yeah, or
What?
paid him or whatever she
Oh
did.
my God.
That's how dirty this fucking business
How
is.
did that come out? Like, how did anybody find that out?
It was just in the papers here in town.
Hmm. Weird.
Her name is Lisa DeMuth. She's a Republican Speaker of the House in the state legislature, and apparently
Okay.
she was in cahoots with this kid or whoever else was involved, and they did this to make Tim Walz look bad, even though it's old news. Um, and then, of course, Donald Trump comes out and he tries to sell the idea that Tim Walz was involved in the shooting of that Democratic representative in Minnesota. You remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somehow Tim Walz was involved in backing up the killing of a Democratic legislature. I mean, that's like Nancy Pelosi trying to stop the certification for the election on in 2021. Why would you do that? Why would you try to cut your nose off to spite your? The whole thing is just stupid. And then this is what they end up with. They end up with Klobuchar, who will beat the shit out of Ann DeMuth or anybody else that's in there, including, well, of course, we've got one serious contender that's running for governor in Minnesota. I don't know if you've heard about this, but another
Is it Mike Lindell?
Mike Lindell. Oh, he's got all kinds of chances, he's saying. He's going to blow this thing apart. Mike Lindell. Jesus Christ. I hope nobody's giving him money. I hope they learned a lesson that he's just going to piss it away.
That
But
guy's crazy. That guy
yeah.
is really crazy.
Now, a lot of people don't like. There are some people, Democrats, that don't like Klobuchar because they see her as part of the establishment, which she probably is. She probably takes APAC money. But if she's out of the Senate and she'll be governor, there really is no value in APAC money for her anymore. She may be part of that whole establishment system, but that's how the government is run for years and years. And hopefully we're getting away from that. But I don't really care
I haven't seen
if it's
her
Tim
out there
Walz
though.
or what's that?
I haven't seen her being out there pro-Israel like some of these other
No,
people are. She hasn't
no.
really. So
She's kept
she
her
may
mouth
not.
shut about it. But people have been accusing her of that, and I don't know how true it is. It wouldn't surprise me because all the establishment folks are back in Israel, and it's all about money. It's all
But
about APAC.
it would be a moot point now if she's governor. They're not going to donate to her.
No, no, and I'd much rather have her governor than DeMuth or Mike Lindell or any other Republican candidate. I mean, she seems to care about the state. She seems to have some morals. She seems to be
Mhm.
credible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a problem with her coming in, especially since she'll probably wipe the floor with any Republican candidate.
Oh, yeah, I believe that. Amy Klobuchar is smart.
She
Like
is.
she's smart and she is very articulate and she knows her stuff.
We'd often thought that she might be a great candidate for attorney general once we had a Democratic president. I suppose
Hmm.
that could still happen, but I think we need somebody younger and meaner. She's tough. I just don't think she's mean enough. Um,
Yeah.
But so we'll see what happens. And the best part of this, not only does Amy Klobuchar become governor, she gets to handpick anybody she wants to be in the fucking Senate for 4.5 years.
God, I
Good
love that.
job. Good job, Republicans. You really did some good work there.
I
What do
swear to
you
God,
think?
Republican.
We're getting toward the end here, and I just want to ask you, we've got another big issue, two big issues. ACA subsidies, they're going to have a vote on it this week, as I understand it, in the House. What happens with that? And then at the end of the month, they have to punch up that continuing resolution again, otherwise we get shut down. Those are two big issues. They're all happening this month. I have a feeling this month with Epstein, Venezuela, and these two issues, it's going to be a crazy fucking month.
Yeah, it is. We're gonna have to keep our eyes on a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts. Um, I don't, I'm not sure how the Republicans will vote for the ACA. I think they pretty much decided they're not gonna vote for it.
Really?
I kind of think that's where we are. I mean, if they didn't do it by the end of December, I don't see them doing it now. I mean, unless they're having some kind of come to Jesus moment. but I don't see that they care anymore. I think they are to the point that they don't want the ACA. They want to rip healthcare away from people. They're allowed to be as cruel as they want because of Trump. And I think they're just gonna take it. Like they love the fact that we're not gonna have health insurance.
But don't you agree if they do that with the health care and now the child care too, that pretty much decimates the Republican Party? I mean, they're in bad shape for the midterms now. It might just,
It does, but I'm telling you, I Mike Johnson is never. I mean, they're gonna have to do another discharge petition to get around him.
well, they did do a discharge petition for this upcoming vote.
Okay, they did.
They got 218 votes, so they've got to vote on the ACA in the House this week, as I understand it. And they got 218 people to sign on. So presumably it should pass in the House. But then you got to go to the Senate, and then you've got to go to Donald Trump. So there's a lot of hurdles here. The only question I have is it going to be similar to what happened with the Jeffrey Epstein files? People are afraid to attach their name to saying, no, we're taking away health care, and they get a bunch of people vote for it in the House and a bunch of people vote for it in the Senate. That's, for me, I always thought at the last minute they would sign a 2 year for the ACA just so they didn't have to deal with it and it wouldn't affect the election. But after they let it go past January 1st, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that they aren't ready to burn the fucker down.
I'm not so sure they have the money in the budget to do it because we've been giving an awful lot of money to Israel, and now we're going to have to give money to Venezuela. So I'm
Yeah,
not
good point.
sure if they even have that in the budget, and they're going to have to do another budget at the end of this month.
Yeah, and that was the second thing I was going to ask you. What's going to happen with that? We had a shutdown, a record shutdown the last time, and now January 31st, we are set up for another shutdown. The
I don't,
Democrats are probably going to be less friendly and less cooperative coming this time. Are we looking at
yeah,
another shutdown?
I think they will. I don't know because the Republicans have the majority in the House. They can squeak it through. I mean,
Yeah.
but they have a really hard time of keeping that caucus together. So I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I will tell you.
We,
I will tell you though that majority in the House got smaller yesterday when Marjorie Taylor Greene quit
mm,
and a Republican representative in California
died.
died. They
Another
lost two
one was in a,
seats.
and another one was in a car accident.
Right, right. So they could
So,
lose their majority pretty quickly. They're maybe one or two ahead of
well,
the game here.
and Nancy Mace was thinking of resigning early
Yeah.
because she's almost done. And I don't know
Do you,
about
do you,
Lauren Boebert.
do you think we're going to see more people resign now that we're past the holidays and past the first of the year and some of the shit going on? Do you think people are just going to throw up their hands and say, fuck it, I'm not running for reelection, or better yet, just saying, I'm gone today?
Yeah, I could see it. I
Okay.
could because there's coming a point. The House is getting really irritated with Mike Johnson because they're getting tired of doing discharge petitions.
Is Mike Johnson done after this month? I kind of think he is.
I don't know. Marjorie Taylor Greene was trying to get rid of him before she resigned, and I don't think she did. But so I don't know. I hope he is, but do you really think the Republicans are going to try to find a new fucker to take his spot? They can't even vote to. They're not going to be able to vote to do that.
Well, and the fact of the matter is who is dumb enough to want to take it? You'd
I
have to be
this
incredibly dumb.
Yeah. I don't know if any of them want it.
Yeah, it's so so what I think you're saying here is they're not going to pass the ACA subsidies. The Democrats are going to get pissed. They're going to shut the country down, and we're going to be at a standstill for a period of time again.
I don't know if they're going to shut the country down, but I just don't know if the Republicans will pass the ACA. I don't see any of them looking for redemption. I don't know. I don't see any of them looking to lift a finger for the American people. I don't think they give a shit.
Let me ask you this: historically speaking,
Mhm.
I've said this before, and I'm just pulling this out of my ass based on logic and common sense. If they blow up the ACA. 24 million people lose their health care and prices go up for everybody. And that all happens. It's going to be a mess for a lot of people. It's going to be terrible for a lot of people. It's going to destroy the Republican Party. Does that put this country in a better position in 2028, 2029 to sell universal health care? Does it take this kind of disastrous situation to make people say, fuck it, let's get universal health care? You think so?
Yeah, it's usually how you end up getting, I mean, even a gun law, stuff like that. It usually takes a tragedy, or like 14 million people losing their fucking healthcare and dying. I mean, yeah, I do. I think that's what's going to take where people are finally going to be like, look, we need goddamn healthcare in this country, and if every other country has it for free, why can't we?
Right.
And it's easy to do with Medicare.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do see this potentially could work out where you get like even the dumbest of the dumb that are like, fuck it, let's just do what the Dems want.
Right.
Because at least I can get my insulin. Because I think you're gonna find that there are a lot of people out there that can't afford drugs. They're not gonna be able to afford it for their kids, they're not gonna be able to afford it for themselves, or their parents aren't gonna be able to afford it. I mean, my mother had a drug that she was taking when she had leukemia. It was like 4 grand a month.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
ridiculous.
without insurance. And I mean, her doctor had to call and like badger the insurance company to get it to a point where my parents could afford it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And insulin is the same way. I don't understand why insulin is so fucking expensive. It's ridiculous.
Something's got to break. One of the things that people don't realize too, maybe Republicans don't realize, if you basically price premiums for 24 million people and they can't afford it, so the only decision they have is that they aren't going to have health insurance. That's 24 million people not putting money into the insurance companies. They are going
Mm-hmm.
to take a huge fucking financial hit.
Yeah, they are. They are. And they're going to make each and every one of us that still have health insurance pay for it.
Pretty much, yeah. So
Hmm.
this whole thing could be quite devastating, and hopefully, if we have to go through some things, that ultimately it gets us in a position where we're um, universal health care. And for me, I'm on Medicare, so it doesn't really matter to me in that sense. But I'm thinking of my kids, I'm thinking about my grandkids, I'm thinking about people like you and other people that are on the show and listening to the show. The fact that people can't afford health care is absurd in this country. Like you say, every other industrialized nation has free health care or very cheap health care, and suggest that we can't afford it, being the richest country in the world by a long shot, is absolute bullshit.
It is. It is. It's bullshit.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
complete, total bullshit.
it absolutely is. Well, we're going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast, but before we do, I want you to remind folks about this upcoming podcast you've got. Let them know what's happening.
Yeah, so I'm starting my own podcast. I hope to have it up by the end of the week. And it'll be the History Mom. I'm getting the YouTube channel up. You'll be able to find me on YouTube and Spotify. I'm going to put it out on Spotify. And I hope that, you listen, and I'm going to do the first episode about Venezuela. I'm going to try to give people a history of Venezuela. I may not be relating it back to today because I think you need to see what Venezuela has, been through so we can hopefully navigate through this mess. Because this is a country I don't think a lot of us have learned about,
Right. Well,
so
what I want you to do when you get it out there, when you put it up, text me with the information, and then I'll
okay.
talk about it on the podcast to make sure everybody can get to it. Just make sure you let me know as soon as it goes up, and then I'll start talking about it, and we'll get people to the podcast because I think they'll find it very interesting. The historical aspects of what's going on now is important to know, and I think a lot of us don't know. So it's a welcome opportunity to get that from somebody like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I hope to listen. I mean, I've got another episode I'm working on. Um, Prohibition, and I'll relate that back to today. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, yeah. It would be very interesting. If you have guests on down the road, you may want to see if we can connect you up with Ed because he knows a lot about history because he's fucking
Does.
old.
Yeah, he does. Ed is a really good person to talk to. He knows a lot.
Yeah, he would be a great person to talk to. So thank you very much, Denise. I appreciate it immensely. It's been a while since you've been on. Going to
Yeah.
reprimand you a little bit. Don't make it so fucking long. You're going to have a podcast to promote, so get here more often.
All right.
All right. For those listening, thank you for taking the time. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.